Hi guys, my name is Mauri and I'm one of the designers of Dragons Conquer America. In this video I'm gonna talk to you first about what you need to play this game, and then we're gonna go over the character sheet and everything that comes in it and what it means. So in order to play this game, you're gonna need one of these decks per player. These are half of a standard poker deck, so they contain 4 suits, and each of the suits contains 6 cards that are numbered 1 through 6. You're also gonna need 1 joker per player. At the beginning of the game, each player is gonna shuffle his deck and draw a hand of 8 cards. Those cards are gonna represent his stamina, and every time he wants to perform an action, he's gonna have to choose cards from his hand and play them. So as players play their cards and run out of them, they're gonna have less options, which is gonna represent how they're getting exhausted. Once we have gone over the hand of cards, we can go over to the character sheet and how it works. First of all, on the top part of the page, we can find the character level, which is only gonna determine how much you can advance your character. So as the game goes on and characters increase their level, they can gain access to more upgrades and higher stats, such as skills and the focus for the different skills. Then comes the status of the player. This is something you decide during character creation, and there is 3 statuses you can choose between. The first is a slave. Being a slave means you're gonna have no possessions and no money, but you're gonna gain some additional experience points to expand in your character. Your character can also be a commoner. Commoners are the most standard characters in the game, and they have no advantages or disadvantages. And finally, there is the noble. Nobles are gonna be part of the higher class in the game. Being a noble is gonna cost experience points, so nobles will start with worse stats at the beginning of the game. It's gonna take them a bit longer to catch up, but they will start with better financial resources. Afterwards, you're gonna have to choose your age. There's gonna be 3 ages as well. The first is young characters, which have no advantages nor disadvantages. Then you can be an adult. Adults are gonna lose one of the cards from their hand of cards, which represents as they grow older, they lose some of their stamina, but they are gonna win some more experience points to expand in their initial character creation. And finally, you can be an old character who's gonna lose an extra card from his hand of cards. So his hand of cards is gonna be limited to 6 throughout the game, but he's gonna gain a lot more experience points at the beginning of the game. So this is a decision you have to make based on what you want your character to do throughout the game. Then you're gonna have to pick the gender and the name of your character, and then as to religions, you can choose to be either a Christian or a Mesoamerican, and your religion is gonna grant you access to 2 basic spells. For example, the Christians will know the Pater Nostrum and Ave Maria at the beginning of the game. They are minor spells that grant some bonuses throughout the game. And once you have chosen your religion, you get to choose your order or your class. And your class is gonna be probably the most important decision as far as gameplay goes. So your order, you have several to choose between. You can be either a conquistador, or you can be an aristocrat, or you can be a priest, for example. And choosing your order is gonna determine your sum of your initial skill values, and it's also gonna determine some of the special abilities you have access to, and which of the skills you have are like professional skills, and those skills you can advance further than the others. So the decision of your class is gonna determine your character creation completely. What else can we find in the character sheet? Well, on this side here, you can find the 4 different types of actions in the game. So there is exploration, there is social, there is conflict, and then there is magical actions. Each of the different actions is going to relate to one of the suits of the cards. When you're performing, for example, a social action, and you play a card from the same suit as the action you're performing, you get to draw a new card. So at the beginning of the game, for example, if you're playing with a poker deck, you could have to decide which of the 4 suits corresponds to which of the 4 different types of actions. Let's say diamonds here is the suit that I assign to my magical actions. Every time I try to perform a spell or cast a spell and I play a diamond card, I get to draw a new card. So this is going to be one of the 2 mechanics by which you're going to get cards back. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to choose which of the 4 abilities or which of the 4 types of actions you want your character to be better at. And that's going to grant him some small bonuses when performing that type of action and playing that type of card. Then you have armor here. You have soft armor and hard armor. Both of them reduce incoming damage, but soft armor can be pierced by some specific weapons, whereas hard armor is going to be pretty much impossible to ignore. Then you have magic resistance, which is going to work similar to how armor works, but when in everything that concerns magic. Then you have the experience of your character. So when you level up or when you gain experience at the end of every session, you gain 10 experience points. Those that you don't spend, you can write here so you can keep track for further game. And then you have the spirits points that you have, which are kind of like your energy or your mana. Then we go to this part here, which depicts your character. And as you can see, down here, this heart is gonna have your health. Your health is gonna range from 3 to 8, and in this small circle here, you can write how much damage you have taken. Once you drop to 0, you're unconscious. Then we have you can see that these circles here point to different body areas, and they represent the injuries. So when you take a damage that goes over your threshold value, which is another value that you can increase through abilities, you're gonna receive an injury. There is 6 body parts. You will draw a random card from the top of your deck, and it will determine which body part takes the injury. Being injured is gonna limit some of your skills. So you can see, for example, in this side here, you can see which skills relate to which types of injuries. So if you take an injury to one of the 2 arms, for example, you come here to the arms, and you can see that it's gonna affect your crafting, your shooting, and your melee. And this small square here is you can match it when you're exhausted. So when your character has been, walking non-stop for a very long time, the GM can say, okay, your characters are now exhausted, and that's gonna provide further disadvantages to every action you want to perform. Okay, here in the traits square, you can choose traits for your character. So at the beginning of the game, every character will have to choose a few traits. He can make up any traits he wants. So he can be, for example, jealous and arrogant and brave. Those traits won't have a specific effect, but at any point, either the GM or the player, depending on the type of trait, can declare that the trait is coming into action. So for example, say your character is coward. That could be a bad trait. Choosing that trait could give you additional experience points that you can then use to improve your character in other areas. But at any point during, say, a scary situation, the GM can say, okay, your character is a coward, so you're gonna have to perform a discipline check, which is this skill here. And if you failed your discipline check, your character is gonna have to, act cowardly. So he'll probably run away. And finally, down here, we can find the skills. There is 15 different skills. And skills have two different areas. First, we have the skill value, and then we have the skill focus. The skill value is going to determine the initial value you have whenever you want to perform an action, and to that initial value you will add the value of the cards that you play. And your skill focus is going to determine how many cards you can play for a specific action. So say I have shooting with a skill value of 7 and 3 cards, then my initial value would always be 7, and then I would, every time I want to perform a shooting action, I can play up to 3 cards. The number of cards that I play is gonna be up to me. Sometimes I might wanna save some of my cards for later encounters, but you can play a maximum of 3 cards. And skills range from 0 to 9, and the focus range from 1 to 4. And then you have this small circle here, which is gonna be related to your order, and it's gonna tell you the different focuses you can improve up to 4. All the others are gonna be capped at 3. That's gonna create differences between different characters. So it's impossible to create a character that excels at everything. When you decide your character, you're gonna be deciding which of the different skills you want your character to be able to max out on, so to speak. And the other skills, he's still gonna be able to be really good, but he's never gonna be able to excel at those. And finally, all this space here is gonna be used to indicate your different abilities. So with your experience points, and as your character progresses, you have access to different abilities. The number of abilities for a single skill you can buy are also determined by your skill focus. So for example, at the beginning of the game, you can get a single ability for every skill. And once you increase your focus to say 4, you can get up to 4 abilities. And abilities, there's gonna be a list of common abilities that every character can choose from. And then there's gonna be a few class related abilities that you can only use if you have chosen that class during character creation. And finally, I think it's worth mentioning the discipline, tolerance, and profession skills, because they are slightly unique to this setting and to this game. We want to represent things such as bigotry and racism in the game, and that's something bad, and that's something your character is going to start the game with, some prejudices. And the idea of tolerance is to allow your character to become more tolerant. And as you increase your tolerance, you're going to be able to better deal with characters belonging to different, either with different gender or different cultures. And that's going to, make the game run more smoothly, because the GM won't be able to say, hey, okay, you cannot deal with that character, or when you try to deal with that character, you lose your temper, which at the beginning of the game might complicate things. And once your character gets or manages to overcome his prejudices, it's gonna make the gaming experience much easier for everyone involved. And finally, profession is related to the order you choose. So as you can see, it's not a generic profession. It's gonna always relate to the order you chose. And profession is gonna determine both your starting resources, so how much money you have at the beginning of the game, and also your reputation. So say you chose a priest and you have a lot of profession, you're gonna be a well-known priest, and you're probably gonna be able to, or your word is gonna carry weight within your order. And finally, there's this small space for notes, and in the notes section you can write pretty much anything relevant to your character. And I believe this is all for now. Thank you for watching, and I hope you liked what you saw.